What's going on, Defenders? It's been 24 hours since we last saw each other for episode 359, and now we are back with another edition of One More Sleep, because in less than 24 hours, we will all be together once again at BMO for a match against a team that has spoiled plenty of our postseasons for us historically. And of course, by they, I mean the Seattle Sounders. But before we do the preview, introductions are, of course, in order. We can't assume everybody who tunes in to the show knows who the fruck we are. So let me begin by introducing myself. My name's Christian Filliman, better known as Philly, and joining me, technically, the 11th member of Defenders of the Bank, Chris Lafferty.
Whoa, I made the starting 11. What is up, Defenders? Happy Tuesday night before a rare, as of late, Wednesday match. I am so fired up. Sad I couldn't have been with you last night. I was working late, had a really cool event that I was doing, but I am so pumped to be back talking soccer with my main man, Philly. How are you doing, my dude?
I'm good, and I could have totally used you last night because it's the first time I potted by myself in a while, and I had the yips. My roadcaster had the yips. It would go off randomly, and I got really dry in the throat randomly. The Topo Chico couldn't fill me up, and when it did, I would burp. Oh, it was a fun welcome back, but I'm happy that you're here. I'm surprised that you're only saying I made the starting 11. Do you not want to know who else was ahead of you?
I don't know. Well, you said the 11th member, so hey, starting 11. I'll take it.
All right, Phil, fair enough. I mean, at the end of it, it's a football team. But for those wondering how Lafferty is the 11th, well, let me tell you. There's me. There's Scarf. There's Panda. There's Anina. Of course, there's Dexter, who creates all our graphics. There was Schmitty, and may he rest in peace, my dear, sweet Schmitty. How I miss him dearly. And then you got Hello Kitty. You got Harry, you got Huff, and you got Hagrid, the Gremlins. So with you, that now makes 11. Makes sense?
Yeah. Point of order on that. I made the 11, but I'm giving a red card to Hello Kitty.
But you have to admit, Hello Kitty was before you. I think that's fair. I think many of the millions would know right off the bat that Hello Kitty made the cut before you did. But it's all good, my man. Hey, Seattle, we get to play them again. 18th time in the regular season, Chris. 24th all-time overall. And it's our Pacific Northwest nemesis yet again. We are 9-4-4 all-time against them in the regular season. 13-7-4 overall. 7-0-1 at home. And you know what? A lot of that, to me, doesn't mean as much, considering the fact that they beat us in the Western Conference Finals in 2019, which ended a historic season. And of course, they beat us last year 2-1, 109th minute, a goal by Jordan Morris. Earlier than that, an own goal by Maxime Chanel. And those are the games that register. Not the time we beat them on our way to the U.S. Open Cup. Not the fact that we pretty much went undefeated against them prior to the postseason. I only and always remember those two losses. And of course, our very first wins in franchise history at the Clink and at home, the Laurent Simon goal. But why were we always focusing on the postseason?
Well, because we always play them in the postseason.
That's true. Well, Laugh, actually, you might be the 12th member because, wait, where was that? Dang it. There we are. What about Fred? You are oh so right, Joel. Fred's buried somewhere underneath a mountain of jerseys along with Hello Kitty. I haven't seen Hello Kitty in like a couple of weeks, but now that I'm on the pod, maybe I'll have some time to clean this effing room and I can finally find some things.
Philly, I gotta say though, Joel also said these Philly Laugh episodes are rare. They're super rare, and we've had some lonesome laugh episodes, a bunch of solo Scarf episodes, and last night you did a what would you call it for yourself by yourself?
I don't know. A flamingo only episode. I don't know. I got nothing. I got nothing creative on that one.
Yeah, hey man, we've been burning the candle at both ends. So if our alliteration and our puns aren't sticking right away, bear with us. But hey,
Well, that's
anyway,
good. Ruben Rios in the chat, Phillyverse episode. Yeah, that's good. I like that. You said it.
Yeah.
We're burning the candle on both ends. I don't remember the last time I flipping slept.
Well, hey, look, man. All I know is that we only have one more sleep before we get back to this, back to our ways against Seattle tomorrow night. I'm really pumped. It'll be good to have a midweek match. I haven't had one in a little while, it seems. So our team has, been able to get sort of a manageable schedule after such a chaotic beginning to the year with all of those games back to back, tournament games, this, that, and the other. I'm glad that we seem to have found our focus. And even though we are now starting to get another little busy point in the schedule for the year, I think our guys are coming into this in a lot better shape than we were maybe in the beginning of the year.
I mean, that's a fair point. And look, this is a gauntlet of a week. I mean, we got the Sounders tomorrow, which is a big deal. At the time of this recording, it still is May the 13th, at least for another couple hours. And then we don't have too much time to rest because then we take on a badly beat up and bruised LA Galaxy team. I'm sorry, Carson Galaxy team. And if the Philadelphia Union happen to put anywhere near the same result on the Galaxy that the New Jersey Energy Drinks did, does that mean we don't have Vanny in the game against LAFC? I don't know, but maybe their season begins at Dignity Health Sports Park against us on Sunday. I don't know. But look, let's get back to Seattle. Seattle, this is a team that beat us 5-2 back on March the 8th. And look, we've had our ups and downs this season. No question about it. Steve is calling it quits at the end of the year. But, 5-4-3, not the best turnout, 18 points, but undefeated in the last 5 matches. Denny the Destroyer seems to be back as he scored 5 goals and 2 assists during that run. So we're running into this midweek melee in pretty good shape. But guess what, Laugh? The Sounders, they're also in pretty darn good form too. Also undefeated in 5, but the difference is they've won 4 and drawn 1, whereas we've only won 2 and drawn 3. Do you see that as a problem?
I always see Seattle as a problem. But to dive right into it, look, yeah, because I have to take into account what they did to us earlier in the year in what was a very close match up until close to the end of the match, before they just throttled it and ran away. Seattle is just, to me, they've proven themselves already this year. They prove themselves to me every year, but so far in the season, they seem to be more established in what their game is and who they have and how they are going to play, more so than LAFC has throughout the season so far. I think we've had a little bit more in terms of having to rotate rosters and cycle through to rest guys for tournaments that we've been in, etc. But Seattle has just been steady throughout this entire season. And I don't want to say streaky, but they're much more consistent than we've seen from them in the last couple of years. But they're certainly on a roll right now. So, yes, I would say that it is dangerous for LAFC going into this match.
Steady as she goes. You just mentioned that. I instantly went to my brain went to the raconteurs. All right, let's give you the last 5 games for each side. We had a draw against the Vancouver Whitecaps, a game we probably should have won. We beat the Houston Dynamo. We drew St. Louis City. I mean, we hung on to our lives for that one. Portland on the road 3-3. I'll take that. And then we beat San Jose 2-1. That's our last 5. Their last 5, they beat the Dynamo 3-1 in Houston. They destroyed St. Louis SC 4-1. They drew the Colorado Rapids at Dick's Sporting Goods Park. They defeated Nashville in Seattle 3-0, and then they beat FC Dallas on the road. So a couple of pretty good wins for them. In the conference as it stands, they are in 5th place, 5 wins, 4 draws, 3 losses, 20 goals for, 14 against, +6. We are just behind them, literally nipping at their heels. And if we were dogs, our nose would be up their buttholes. We are in 6th place, 5 wins, same as them. But 1 less draw because we have 3, they have 4, and they have 1 less loss. 3, we have 4. So this is going to be a turn. This is going to be a pole jumping scenario for LAFC. And at home, I really do like our chances. But you said they were set steady by Seattle. And you are right. 3-0-2 at home, but 2-3-2 on the road. That's pretty good. Whereas we're 4-1-1 at home.
Well, with all that said, let's just be grateful that we're not dogs, so our nose will not be where you.
We're all dogs, baby.
Well, hey, as long as our noses aren't where you said they'd be, that's all that counts. Now, you're right, though. Look, mediocre, middle of the road record on the road. So let's hope that, that just does play into our favor. And look, it always does. Our home field advantage is an advantage for us. We've got an impeccable crowd out there. The entire 22,000, but especially the north end, the 3252. And it seems like every match that we go to, you hear them and there is just no game off. Like every time I'm always like, oh, wow, they're louder. It seems like when you don't think it's possible, the 3252 continues to elevate themselves from an already high level. They just keep rising. So I think, yeah, while Seattle's play has been maybe more predictable with how good they've been playing, I have to say they are walking in to an environment that will make it much more difficult for them to play than any environment they've stepped into all year, and certainly not as comfortable as they are at home.
That's fair. Joel Son in the chat goes, Red Bulls got revenge on Galaxy for MLS Cup loss last week. This week, LAFC getting revenge on Sounders for playoff loss. I like that. The Coug in the chat goes, saw David Martinez in the pregame presser. Do you think that means he's starting tomorrow? Yes, I think that's exactly what that means. Very rarely do we have scenario. Well, I'd have to go back and look, but I don't really recall too many times where pregame pressers where there have been players that have been interviewed at the very least that have not gotten in. David Martinez will more than likely get playing time, if not start. Okay, so that being the case, Seattle's got some of their usual suspects, my man. Albert Rusnak taking care of business. Christian Roldan taking care of business. They have Jesus Ferreira. He's got 4 assists. But the guy that really stands out is a player that we're going to be talking about. So that being said, spoiler alert, let's go into Lafferty's players to watch.
My player to watch is going to be Danny Musovski for Seattle. Now, Philly, earlier you ran down Seattle's last 5 matches and how they fared. Well, what was the common thread in all 5 of those matches? Danny Musovski putting him in the back of the net. That's right. Danny Musovski is now tied for Seattle's leading goal scorer of the season with Albert Rusnak with 5. 1 goal coming in each of the last 5 matches for Seattle. Now, Danny Musovski has always been a decent player, pretty good guy, great coming off the bench. But this year in Seattle, he's really established himself as a player that will be a top threat for them. Something I don't know if anybody saw coming. Yeah, I certainly always had to account for the guy. But look, 5 goals in the last 5 matches, really impressive. That's a solid streak, and that's something that we're going to have to account for because he's coming in red hot with momentum. And that's why I picked Eddie Segura as my player to watch for LAFC. Segura has been having some quietly solid games, despite what the haters want to say about him. He's been standing tall for us. There's been a lot of times where on the broadcast they're calling out, oh, Segura making plays, Segura getting in and stopping things. Segura on that first goal that Mark Delgado scored in the last match against Vancouver, that was a comebacker for Delgado off of Eddie Segura's chance that he took. So he's finding ways to get himself involved, including on the offense, but he's been stepping up and really has been improving his game as time goes on throughout the season. I know there's been so much criticism towards him. There has not been a lot of faith in Eddie Segura, but I think you got to call a spade a spade. And while a lot of those criticisms were valid earlier in the year, what we've been seeing from Eddie in the last few matches has been a drastic improvement. And he's been somebody that, quite frankly, we've been able to rely upon. So I think he's going to have a crucial role for tomorrow. And what I've been seeing from him lately is that he's embraced his role. So I have a lot of confidence going into tomorrow. And he's somebody that we really are going to have to keep an eye on because he's going to be tested with the Seattle offense. But I'm looking for him to step up. And I really believe that he can.
I really, really wanted him to get the goal. That first goal against Vancouver. He had the nice flick off of what came off of Ranko Veselinovic in the first goal of the game, the one that Marky Delgado scored. I really wanted Eddie to get that first confidence and obviously to keep some of the other people silent. There is a question in regards to an Aaron Long update. As far as the only thing I'm seeing, especially like from an injury perspective, and that's actually something, Chris, we should bring up real quick before we go into my players to watch. The only player that on LAFC that is questionable right now is Maxime Chanot, head injury. There's nobody else that doesn't look to be eligible. There's nobody questionable. There's nobody on the injury report, not on LAFC's media guide, not on the MLS injury report on their website. So that's as far as LAFC is concerned, but Seattle is going to be missing a couple of really key figures. Chris, why don't you let the millions
and millions
let know exactly who Seattle's not going to have tomorrow?
Well, before I do that, I just want to clear up, though, that also listed on FOTMob, at least, is Odin Thiago Home as out until late May. So who knows? Maybe he's back early, but at least we're looking to have him back sometime this month. Fingers crossed. But for Seattle, they are missing 3 key players here. Jackson Reagan with a hamstring injury until late this month as well. So even if he is feeling better, he probably won't be there tomorrow, and he's listed as out anyway. But also Jordan Morris with a hamstring injury, expected to come back early of June next month, 2025. And Paul Arriola with an ACL injury. He's out until late November of this year. So maybe Seattle can get him for like, I don't know, a conference final or a final if they make it, but they won't because LAFC will be there. So that's a moot point. We'll see him next season. So yeah, look, you have those 3 guys, big names that we are very familiar with in the LAFC circle, just because they've played really well against us as always throughout the last handful of years, whether it's with Seattle or other teams. We've definitely been familiar with them, and so those are going to be 3 big losses for Seattle to not have tomorrow. But I think with our squad going up against them, I think now is the time to attack and take advantage of having those guys out.
There you go, and I appreciate that. Aaron Long in the chat goes, I am playing Philly. Please don't start any rumors. Okay. I got that UC Riverside scarf up there for you, buddy. I was figuring anytime you'd hop onto the chat, you'd like to see that. And speaking of which, we should have a conversation about some potential donations. Maybe we could build a nice little field behind the Riverside Sports Complex and move the stadium off of that terrible turf that burns players' cleats and actually get some really good grass. With UC Riverside being a research institute, I'm sure we could have a conversation with West Coast Grass and possibly do a research assignment. Anyway, I digress. I've really gone on the tangent with that one. All right, so those are your players to watch. A player that always plays well against LAFC, yes, Jordan Morris, but he's out. The player, though, that I like to keep an eye on is Albert Rusnak for a variety of reasons. The guy's got 5 goals. He's getting an awful lot of playing time. His first season with Seattle was abysmal, but anytime he's come up to BMO Stadium as a member of either Seattle or as a member of Real Salt Lake, Albert Rusnak has always put in some masterful performances. So yes, Danny Musovski is a good pick, and I knew you would pick that because you were always a big fan of the Moose. And considering how his career is progressed from his time in Reno within the USL to being at LAFC, to being wherever else he's been, I love to see that Danny Musovski be successful, but not against us. A chip on his shoulder will probably be had by him as he comes back into BMO to let the technical staff and John Thorrington know, hey, this is what you did. You messed up. You let me go. Now I'm here to stick it to you. But in addition to him being dangerous on the attack, Albert Rusnak, a guy that you have to keep an eye on for, the guy who's just solid when it comes to scoring goals, the guy who's been very solid against scoring goals against LAFC. And for LAFC, look, success. It's been Denny the Destroyer, folks. He's been taking care of business. He's been playing absolutely fantastic over the last 5 games. And I don't think we sit in a position to where we could easily claim the fact that we've gone unbeaten in 5 should Denny Bouanga have not competed in the way that he has. He's flipped things around. He started off extremely slow, but if you remember, he started a little bit slower. No, he started slower this season, but he started slow last year. Then he started going on a roll, and then he started scoring goals. We succeed when he is involved. We need him. It's not the low-hanging fruit. It's a necessity at this point. Denis Bouanga has to have a great game, and he has to be the player to watch, because if he's not, we are effed in the whatever.
Well, you're right. it seems like LAFC lives by the Belonga and dies by the Belonga. So we're gonna need him to go off tomorrow. Quite frankly, uh,
Yep. Kick a
I
Ball Pod has Vukovic, UCR, Marshall, Duke. Vukovic got drafted by RSL recently. Kick a Ball Pod, keep your eyes out on Luka Lukic. He's going to be heading to Cal Berkeley. Sorry, I just wanted to make sure I addressed that.
No, shout out to Luca too. Cool guy. Got to meet him doing some UCR broadcasts with you. Great guy, hard worker, great player.
Yeah,
Wish him the
actually
best.
got inducted into the Riverside Sports Hall of Fame recently, so good on him.
Wow, that's awesome.
All right, let's go to keys to the game, starting with Scarf. I mean Lafferty. And for those wondering where Dishal de La Bufanda is, he's in Atlanta. He was earlier today. He sent me a photo at the birth home of Martin Luther King. So pretty dope. And on Thursday, I know he's going to go to a Montgomery Biscuits game. And you know, Glaf, you know how the minor league teams do all these like fun little food retro styles and whatnot. The Montgomery Biscuits have their alternate logo as the Montgomery Kimchi. Got to look that up. They got like a baby sky blue and orange lid to it. Yeah, the Montgomery Kimchi. I'm gonna sell Scarf like $45 and have him pick me up a lid.
Well, I'll tell you what, when I go back to Connecticut in June for my cousin's wedding, maybe I'll stop up at the Yard Goat Stadium and pick you up a Hartford Steamed Cheeseburgers hat, which is their alternate identity.
There is a team in Texas called the Spartan Burgers. I think they have the best minor league hat, period, next to the Rocket City Trash Pandas.
Well, I also like this hat for LAFC, which is what we and I got to get focused on because, man, we are distracted, buddy. But look, my keys to the game are going to be lockdown defending. And by that, I mean, we got to lock it down on defense tomorrow. And we got to stop these streaking players. And with clothes on, I don't mean they're running on the field. We got to stop these.
Thank you for the clarification.
Yeah, of course. Absolutely. All business here. We got to stop guys like Musovski, end that streak for him. 5 goals. I hope he enjoyed them. That's all he's getting after tomorrow. Albert Rusnak, look, always a scoring threat, always a dangerous player, especially against us. We got to shut him down. We got to make our defense is going to have to step up. And why? Because I still believe that our defense is the strength of this team because I'm not fully confident in our offense as much as I want to be. I'm not criticizing them. I'm not knocking them. I know that they're all trying really hard and you see that the effort is there. But it has not been they have not been the producers on offense that I want them to be. I still feel like there's some timidness when they play. I still feel like there's some hesitation and maybe a little unsure about whether or not they should take the shot or pass. And I think we're looking to pass too much, especially in the box. So until I see some things like that, just habits that our offense has and just that they are able to shake and really become that killer instinct that I want to see from them, I have to believe that the key to LAFC's success is going to be their defense. And I think it's going to have to step up big tomorrow and play for the full 90 plus, because I mentioned earlier what happened in the first match that we played Seattle this season. And that was that they really took it to us in the final 15, 20 minutes of the game, blowing the doors wide open. So we took what was a winnable game and really just let it lapse and let Seattle run away with it. So we got to stay on them for the full 90 minutes. The key tomorrow is going to be our defense.
Kick a Ball Pod. Riley Tiernan went to Rutgers, not St. John's. We interviewed her on Soccer in 60 last week, just FYI. But yeah, she's balling out. All right, great stuff. Lockdown defending, and yeah, that kind of ties in a little bit to what I want to talk about. We got to be better at defending set pieces. No question about that. The reason why we lost the game against Vancouver is we weren't solid on set piece defending. Look at what Sebastian Berhalter did on that beautiful dime from Saskatchewan to Brian White. He completely served it to him on a dish. A nice plate of poutine past Hugo Lloris. And he almost did it again. Ranko Veselinovic off of a set piece almost headed one in. He just didn't have enough tapatio on his header as Hugo Lloris made the easy save. Set piece defending for LAFC greatly needs to improve if we're going to look to win at home. In addition, we got to succeed on the counter. We are a damn good team when we score at home first. 6-0-0. And Kick a Ball Pod. Yeah, Rutgers is in Jersey, buddy. St. John's is in Queens. I'm from Queens. I'd take that as a personal insult. I'm just kidding. All good, bud. I appreciate what you do. A lot of college athletic information comes out of Kickaball Pod. Nothing but respect. But yeah, 6-0-0 and LAFC scores the first goal. And how we're going to end up doing that is by beating Seattle on the counter. But that's going to be also a really tough cookie to crack because of the fact that they are quite, what's the word I'm looking for? Discipline when it comes to playing defense. So if we catch him on a mistake and burn him the way that Denis Bouanga burned through Ocampo against Vancouver, I think we have a solid shot in that sense. But we have to get better about defending set pieces, and we have to get not good. We have to complete what the hell am I talking about? We have to score off of the counter. First goal in particular, competitive one. Get the crowd into it. Start to silence the Sounders. That's how you do it, baby.
Well, look, and that's going to happen if our defense stays solid, not just in set pieces, but in open play, but also, talking about scoring on the counter and scoring on transition. Our midfield is going to have to really be a catalyst more so than they have been so far this season. I know earlier I just put a lot of the blame, if you will, on the offense for being a little anemic at times, but I think a lot of that's going to have to come from what gets produced for them by the midfield too. Mark Delgado has been playing out of his mind all year.
Best player we brought in this season, 100%.
Absolutely. Igor Jesus has had a really impressive rookie campaign for us.
Minus the assist he gave to Vancouver the other day.
Yeah, bro. Yeah, but then Tillman, who's kind of been the wild card in that area. Sometimes he's playing great. Sometimes you're screaming at the TV But I think Tillman is, the last couple of games, has been starting to maybe gel a little bit more, have a little bit more consistent performances than we've seen. So I'm hoping that somebody like him can start to turn it around. And look, I think what he's going to have to do is he's going to have to be better at finding his guys with his passes. A lot of errant passes have been coming from him. A lot of soft passes right to the defense. So I'm hoping that somebody like him could really shut me up and really turn things around for us.
All right. That's great analysis. My friend, on the record, I have to say I'm very much enamored and happy with how you've progressed along in this pod. Like the insight you give, very valuable, very intelligent, and the way you present it as of late is great. So hats off to you. So now that I've given you enough of the flowers, because nothing says I appreciate you quite like something that dies after 2 days, let's go to your score prediction.
Well, hopefully this prediction holds up longer than 2 days, and we can keep this optimism going for much more than a flower would last. Look, I think that I talked about it. Our offense is going to have to do something different. Our offense is going to have to make some drastic changes in my eyes. And I think they're also going to have to get some consistency. We've seen different looks every game, and each substitution has been something different. Not really anything that you could bet on as far as who's going to come in when or who's going to start. So, but I think tomorrow we're going to have a really focused, really inspired team to take it to Seattle. I think this one's going to be kind of personal, especially after the last match. In the first match of the year against Seattle, David Martinez was able to find the back of the net. I think a guy like Denis Bouanga is starting to get his form. Cengiz Ünder, I've always said maybe he hasn't been the scoring threat that we've wanted from him, but he's been a guy that facilitates a lot of chances for everybody else on our team, including finding guys like Frankie Amaya often and getting him involved with it. So I just love the creativity and just the entire spatial awareness that a guy like Ünder has. Ordaz, always somebody that I think you can put him in. I think against a team like Miami, you put Ordaz against Seattle, you put Ordaz in there, and we're going to see a lot of what we saw with him against Miami, and that he's going to take it to it. He's going to be physical, which is what Seattle is going to do and play against us. And I think a guy like any of those guys can really make the difference for us. And then you got the guys you don't really think about because we haven't seen them as much this season, but they certainly, one guy in particular who certainly has made a case for himself to be a valuable contributor is Jeremy Ebobisse. He's just been, magic every time he comes on the pitch. He's always making opportunities. A couple of unfortunate looks where they haven't gone in. But man, I'm really liking what he brings to the table. And again, especially after playing him the last 5 years or so, it's great to see him finally on our team. I'm glad to have him in black and gold.
It's better than him being on the opposite side because I still have nightmares. All the LA teams are where he absolutely thrived and scored a plethora of goals. All right, so 3-2 is what Lafferty has in mind. You and I have something in common in the sense where we both have LAFC winning by one. And I would say it's going to be 2-1. I don't see LAFC being a team that could put 3 goals up on a defense like the Seattle Sounders. But I do like what you were saying in regards to the chip on the shoulder. Seattle's the only team that has scored 5 on us this season. One of the more lopsided losses that we had. The last time we allowed 5 goals against us, you'd have to go back to July of 2024 when the Columbus Crew whooped us 5-1. So yes, I do think LAFC is going to settle down defensively and prevent Seattle from going on the kind of run that they've had against us in the past. In particular, without Jordan Morris, that dilutes their offense to a certain extent. But now with the emergence of Danny Musovski, things get a little interesting. I don't know if Danny has that killer instinct, though, against LAFC the same way Jordan Morris does. That being said, Seattle does end up scoring a goal, but LAFC ends up scoring 2 to win the game. Now, where these goals are coming, I've learned my valuable lesson in the sense that I don't predict these things very well. I've been pretty good about my score predictions in the limited times that I've been on Defenders this season. But I think 2-1, and truthfully, I think we score first and both goals before the 60th minute. Seattle gets one late, makes the game interesting. We hang on. That's my thought.
Well, you said earlier the last time that we lost by that margin, we'd have to go back to 2024 against the Columbus Crew at home. And well, quite frankly, I don't want to go back to that point. I don't want to go back. I'm looking forward only, baby. I am all gas, no brakes. I really think we're coming out tomorrow hot. I got a feeling this team is going to really stand up big. I think it's starting to get personal for a lot of them. And I think especially after going up so early against Vancouver and letting them come back and letting Vancouver claw back instead of being able to make a statement against the top team. I think that our guys are going to start really taking it personally and come out with a bit of a chip on their shoulder, like I mentioned earlier, and show them that, no, we are that good. We do belong at the top of the table. Got off to a sluggish start, but we're back, baby. LAFC is back in the discussion. So I am very excited to see what happens tomorrow. I think this team is going to start showing a lot more special in their game that we haven't seen so far this season. I think tomorrow is going to be a statement for them. And at home, I really love our chances with the 32-52, setting the vibe and setting the tone for our guys and giving that energy.
With all the vegetables and fiber I've been consuming, I too am full of gas, and I appreciate that. Folks, before I let you go, I would be remiss if I didn't bring this up because we've done a terrible job at marketing ourselves in so many ways. The Defenders of the Bank website is still something that exists, although the man who is supposed to be running it hasn't updated the episodes. But friends, the website is still active. Why do I bring this up? Because if you click on this shop tab, we got a shop that's still there. And I want to give a shout out to a friend of the pod, Mario. There was a picture with him and his newborn wearing a Defenders of the Bank kit, a little baby romper thing. Awesome stuff. So we got a bunch of cool things. We got hoodies. We got baby gear. We got all kinds of jazzmatazz here in the house. Just go to defendersofthebank.com. Click on the shop here. You could get yourself an awesome Phila Monster Studios t-shirt. This is one of my favorite t-shirts that I have in my closet. This is a really cool one. So yeah, check us out. Defenders 20 will be the code that you punch in to get yourself a nice little discount. And it's our way of being able to pay these little bills and maintain the podcast. Obviously, we're not looking to get rich off of any of this stuff. The Coug says Flex. Flex hasn't been one of our sponsors in a minute. They used to pay us quite a bunch of money, Defenders, but since that partnership is no longer there, the Defenders of the Bank coffers are not the way they used to be. They're not plush anymore. They're a word that begins with P, ends with P, and has 2 O's in the middle of it. So make sure you check out defendersofthebank.com. Hit on shop. Find whatever you want. Defenders 20 I'll get you the discount. So yes, the shirts are so soft. Thank you so much. From Ruben to Coog, very high quality. Yeah, look, we're not trying to skimp on that. 500 level does a really good job, and they also get a really big cut of our proceeds anyway because they do a good job. All right, so I spent more than. I didn't even spend 35 minutes doing episode 359 yesterday. So, Laugh, I appreciate you coming on. Will you be around for episode 360 is my question to you.
That's when? Thursday?
That would be Thirsty effing Thursday.
I believe I am, my friend. I will be here. And look, also about that Defenders 20 discount code on the 500 level website, that works for anything on 500 level. So I before WrestleMania, I bought myself a t-shirt for Seth Rollins that I wore to night 2 or night 1. So I mean, hey, if let's say you go get your Defenders of the Bank merchandise, but then also you want to get something for your baseball team, for an Angel City shirt, perhaps even, check them out on 500 level, and the Defenders 20 code will work for that as well. So use it for all your shopping needs.
All right.
For that.
All right. Yep, we got a Thursday recap, then a Saturday, one more sleep. Defenders, not sure how many of you are tuning into the Soccer and 60 show that we do on ABC Radio. I'm telling you right now, you're going to want to be on this episode because we got a pretty darn cool guest. I'm going to be interviewing him tomorrow at 7:30 in the morning. And he's got LAFC ties, folks. When it comes to Major League Soccer, this guy's a pretty big deal. So you're going to want to check out Soccer and 60. We'll be advertising that on Thursday. All right. On behalf of myself, Chris Lafferty, and the other 9 members that done or a part of Defenders of the Bank. There's the red card. I got to bring Fred on. I'm the one that gets the red card. Thank you so much for tuning into this edition of, yes, shout out El Chiva Mayor. Absolutely, Aaron Long. Thank you so much for tuning into this edition of One More Sleep. We'll be back on Thursday to talk about the recap. Hopefully it's the beatdown of Seattle. Excuse me. And that is all. We'll see you tomorrow at BMO. Night.